Hello everybody, my name is Dr. John Lucio. I practice integrative medicine and pain management in Jefferson City, Missouri, and this is my wife.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jennifer Sue. I practice conventional gynecology and integrative medicine. We're out at the Lifesong Counseling and Wellness Center.
Yep.
Dr. Rich and Jill Lillard are owners of Lifesong Growth and Wellness Center, which they graciously opened to us on a beautiful Sunday, and it's 3 days, is it 3 days before Christmas? Or
Yep.
2 days? What day is
Sure.
it? So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Hit that notification bell at the bottom there so you know when we've uploaded our next video. We love all the feedback you've been giving us, and give this video a thumbs up. We appreciate it.
Hey, you said bell down there. And you
No, we always go through this.
Okay. So Dr. Richard Lillard, who I've known for a while, has worked with medical practitioners as a liaison for the greater integrative health and applies the concepts of acceptance and commitment therapy into his work with clients.
Jill is a licensed professional counselor and certified Gottman couples therapist at Lifesong. She also has an online coaching business, The Happiest Wives. If you haven't checked out her blog, you really need to. It's a wonderful blog. She works to help Christian women create better relationships without trying to change their husbands. Did you make this appointment? Because
Yes,
I'm always
I did.
trying to change
Yes.
you.
So with 50% of marriages ending in divorce, what do you think that's a cause of?
Yeah, I think half of all marriages end in divorce because the meaning that people are attributing to the problems that they're having. And so half of the marriages are ending in divorce, but that's not even speaking for the half who are staying together. Half of those people who are together would say they're separate lives living under the same roof, and so they're not necessarily very happy either. And so the reality is that we all have problems in our relationship, and we feel unhappy when we're making our problems mean something terrible.
Okay, can you expound on that a little bit? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so, the Gottman Institute, they talk about that we have two different types of problems. There are basically solvable problems and unsolvable problems. And so every relationship has an unsolvable problem. And when we engage with that issue, a lot of times we'll lock horns. And so we get into a state of gridlock. And because of our different family of origins, our personalities, the bones of who we are, because Rich and I don't always want the same things or prefer the same things, when we talk about certain issues, we may lock horns and it feels like we're spinning our wheels and we never get anywhere. And so oftentimes what couples start to do is they'll deal with those issues on their own. And so they start making the problems mean that something is wrong with them and something's wrong with the relationship. But I feel like I have the perspective when I'm sitting in a counseling session and I hear someone else talking about their marriage. Oftentimes I think their marriage isn't that different than mine, but the biggest difference is they think they have a major problem and I don't.
Dr. Lillard, you work with individuals and systems utilizing acceptance and commitment therapy.
Mm-hmm.
How does this apply to marriages and these gridlock issues that Jill mentioned?
Just to kind of cover the basics, I guess acceptance and commitment therapy is it's a fairly new approach in psychological treatment. And what you're basically talking to people about doing is, instead of focusing their efforts and their energy on addressing things that are out of their power and unable to be changed, you're asking them to find ways to acknowledge those problems, accept those problems, and then focus their energy on the response to those problems. So in marriages, it'd be the same sort of thing. When Jill talks about gridlock or talks about those issues, instead of trying to bull your way through and force the change, it's what do I do when I encounter this situation versus how do I untie that knot. It's what do I do when I find the knot.
So does it sound like it's more like the person's reaction to the problem versus just trying to solve the issue? Is that kind of...
Well, to an extent, and I think it's also just, it's we all kind of see everything as if we are in our own little silo, and so it becomes our problem, our struggle. It becomes a personal sort of an issue, and it's not personal. I think we add significance to things. We make things seem more, this is happening to me, when the reality is it's just happening. And so acceptance commitment therapy, a lot of times I say it is nothing more than a clinical approach that it builds on this on the Serenity Prayer. It's changing what I can, accepting what I can't, and learning how to tell the difference.
Nice.
And if we can find ways to do that in life, it's a much better world. And I kind of think we're out of a job.
Yeah, I don't think that'll ever happen. Jill, what's some of the practical advice for couples who don't want to move past this gridlock?
Yeah, so I think how people often deal with the gridlock is they engage until things go south. And so eventually they take on the thought that it's better to deal with this on my own. And when you start thinking that, rather than turning toward one another, you turn away and you become more distant, lonely, and isolated. And so I always tell people that the solution is always to turn toward, but that there's kind of a third option, because there almost seem two options. We turn toward and things don't go well, so then we turn away and we deal with things on our own. So the advice is always to turn toward, but you find a new way to talk about things. And so I think when we get married, we're bringing manuals into our relationship, which is my set of rules of what a husband should do, and Rich has expectations of things that he thinks a wife will do. And so when you bring those expectations, sometimes the attitude is maybe kind of demanding. We feel entitled to those things. We think that's how it's supposed to be. And so our relationship, we've formed a culture that has never existed before, which is the culture of Rich and Jill. It has elements of his family of origin, and it has elements of my family of origin, but it is its own thing, and it's unique to all the other relationships out there. And so one, I think you have to throw out your manual, your book of expectations, and you turn toward, and you do accept who the other person is, their different preferences, but not in such a way that you're just dealing with things separately. You keep turning toward, and you can ask for things, but you ask in a way that's non-demanding, and you don't make their unwillingness or their non-compliance, the fact that they might not desire the same thing, you don't make that mean that they don't love you or they don't care about the relationship. And so in that way, you get to compromise, you get to honor your differences, and you find space for all of that on the table versus, who's going to win and who's going to suppress who they are, which is very different.
Right.
So.
Interesting. So what would you tell a couple? How long should they wait to try doing this before they seek help from you guys?
I think, relationships, you can't jump in too soon. It should be something you're aware of from the beginning. It's similar to, you work with chronic pain. It's the same sort of a thing, that they don't want their pain. They want their pain to go away. And I think the approach has to be, we have to figure out how you're going to live with this pain.
Right.
Or I don't want to be diabetic. How do I find a way to live knowing I am diabetic? So I think there should be a sense of self-awareness. I hope that's developing in people before they come to counseling. But sometimes that idea of how, and Jill speaks more to this than I can, but I think how their individual natures shuffle together sometimes can't be easily understood without the help of a professional.
Yeah, and statistically, most people wait 6 years too late, and that's the findings of the Gottman Institute. They wait 6 years too late before they ask for help. And I would say oftentimes when a couple does come in here, at that point, one of them is often done. And I think sometimes the mindset is, oh, it's not that bad yet. And so I don't know what is that bad yet. There's this stigma associated with asking for help. But if you're in any other field or entity of life, we see it as a positive to ask for help and to pay for support. And so, but I think sometimes people put such shame that we have to ask for help for our relationship. But why should we feel bad about that when most people are not happy in their relationship? We're not taught how to manage our mind, because I think that's what it really goes back to is, you can learn communication skills. You can learn how to talk to one another or how to make change on the action line. And I think a lot of couples therapy approaches it in that way. But if you're not thinking about your relationship differently, if you're not managing your own mind and your own feelings, you're bringing kind of a mess into your relationship. You need to learn how to change the filter that you are looking at your relationship with. And so I feel like it's never too soon to ask for help, and I see it as I think of my clients as people who are courageous. They're people who are willing to grow. They're people who want to be their best, as opposed to, I think, sometimes the stigma people associate with asking for help.
Sure.
Yeah.
You have a blog.
I do. Yes.
This
Yeah.
morning. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah. Well, I have a blog, and I have a website, which is actually sort of creating a support. I have different groups for women, like I've had the 6-week marriage makeover. And so it's really there to support wives to have better relationships without changing their husbands. And so I think a lot of times we look at what's wrong in our relationship, and we're often pointing our finger at the other person. And so people come in with the mindset of, I want a better relationship. And if you ask what needs to happen to have that, they will list different things their husband needs to do differently. And I think that's especially true probably more with women, because in that way we're kind of problem solvers. We're always assessing what's wrong in the relationship. And so I think if women can just show up and quit trying to change their husband and take 100% responsibility for themselves, that's much more empowering. And then just give up the right to be right, that one person has to be right or one person has to be wrong. And then if you just see your husband as he's there for you to love, that's the easy part, and that's the fun part. And I think that's how relationships begin. You're having fun, you're two adults relating to one another. And so that's kind of where the blog, the site, I'm developing it more to like a membership site.
So is this for existing patients you're seeing, or is this for folks that have never met you before?
Yeah,
or
people
how do you
who have
design it?
never.
So anybody can just access it. And
You can go on there, and I have a freebie. Depending which way you access me, I have a mini course that you can get free, and then 4 steps to reset your relationship. And you can sign up there, and you'll get added to my email list. And I send an email out once a week and kind of let you know of different supports that I have.
so how do they find your site?
Yeah, you can go to thehappiestlives.com, and you can sign up for a freebie, 4 steps to reset your relationship. And with that, you will get my weekly email, which is Power, Love, and a Sound Mind, which I send out on Fridays. And I'll let you know of any courses that I have coming up or any other freebies I have. So there's lots of opportunities, I think, to get connected. You can get a free mini session with me, where I'll call you and just take you through a little process that can be kind of fun, and I think in and of itself can be helpful. And you can see how to link to couples therapy if you're interested in that, and get on a sign up for my 6-week marriage makeover, which will be coming out in 2020.
That sounds fantastic. What other services do you folks offer here besides the marriage counseling?
We offer services for all sorts of people. We have our therapists are all specialists in different areas, from adolescents, children. We offer psychological testing. That's a big part of what Dr. Lillard offers here.
Right now we have 4 psychologists on staff here, and we do evaluations for a variety of issues, from pre-surgical clearance to just diagnostic clarity for treatment, to wide ranges of things people might need psychological evaluations for.
That's really fantastic. We're very grateful to have you guys here as a resource in Jefferson City. And so we've just finished interviewing Dr. Rich Lillard and Jill Lillard, and we're very glad to have them here. And that's it for today. Thank you for joining us. Next week we're going to be having workout for old guys, doctor approved. Thank you.